First of all, I want to apologize because I will do it in English. I'm not a French, I'm not very comfortable with my French, so I apologize. Not only I'm going to bug you with a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm not going to speak in French, so thumbs up for me. As Philippe mentioned, my name is Claudia Jesus-Rydin. I work for the ERC. I'm the coordinator of the Geosciences panel at the ERC, and I'm also the coordinator for the Gender Activity Working Group at the ERC. So the ERC, as most of you probably know, it's the leading funding body for frontier research in Europe. And we have a very ambitious mission, which I'm not going to read, it's just presented there. But we are also ambitious in what we expect and we encourage from our grantees. And this is because we want to lead by example, and we encourage them also to lead by example. And this is why I'm extremely happy to be here in Lyon, because there are great examples of ERC grantees. So I'm really honored to be here today and supporting Nicolas' initiative and his team.
Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions? Non?
You sure? I will try to speak a bit slower if needed. So for the ERC, gender equality issues have been of interest, and we have been monitoring gender imbalances since 2007, so since the early creation of the ERC.
Alors, simplement, ma collègue ici est en charge depuis 2007 donc de travailler dans le domaine de l'égalité homme-femme au sein du domaine de la recherche.
Okay. So what happens at the ERC is that we have this working group that looks at data and feedback that we get from our evaluators. And then what we do is we decide to take action based on our observations. So in 2007, what we did was we worked with the eligibility windows. So we have starting grant, consolidated grant, and advanced grant. So for starting grant, you are eligible to apply if you are between 2 and 7 years. So what we did was that for each female applicant that had a child, this for the call in 2007, that had a child, after PhD, we granted her an extension of 12 months. So she could apply even if she was 8 years after PhD. In 2010, after our observations, we decided that this was not fair enough, and it didn't really matter if the child was born before or after PhD, and that 12 months was also not enough. Because having a career break, it's not just impacting you for 1 year. So we decided to also extend this eligibility extension from 12 months to 18 months, and the child would be eligible whether it was born before or after the PhD.
Donc simplement, ma collègue fait partie d'un groupe au sein duquel chaque doctorant ou post-doctorant a la possibilité de candidater pour une bourse. Donc une bourse selon laquelle on a différents échelons en fonction de l'âge à partir duquel on postule après le doctorat. Donc on a différents plafonds de bourse. Et ce que explique ma collègue, c'est qu'en 2007, ils ont décidé d'étendre 1 an supplémentaire la possibilité de candidater pour cette bourse. Donc au lieu par exemple, de postuler jusqu'à 7 ans maximum après l'obtention de son doctorat, on avait la possibilité de postuler jusqu'à 8 ans pour les femmes qui sont tombées enceintes ou qui ont eu un enfant durant leur doctorat ou peu après. En 2010, ma collègue ainsi que son équipe ont décidé d'augmenter cette durée, donc de passer de 1 an à 18 mois, simplement parce que 12 mois, ce n'était pas suffisant, tout simplement.
Okay. Good. So until 2013, we had a section in the application template which was called scientific leadership. And what we observed was that this was a source of imbalances because generally men would come very aggressively in this section and selling themselves as, you know, the top of the world, you know, like typical car seller approach, while women were much more modest in portraying themselves in this section. So we decided to just simply remove it because it made it really difficult for the panels to compare and to assess accurately these self-declarations of how great they were. In 2014, we've also introduced, after a long debate, the model CV template. We didn't have it before, simply because the ERC is very resistant to fixed and formatted instructions and inflexibility. So we had since the beginning this approach that, and if you know our templates, you know that this is true, is just a guidance. You have the freedom to present your proposal as you wish. But we decided that after several years where we collected consistent feedback from our panel members that it would really help them to compare and assess CVs, we decided then to introduce this model CV template. It's not mandatory, but actually we have observed that about 90% of the candidates are actually using it, and the panels are very pleased with this.
Est-ce que vous avez des questions sur ce que vient de dire ma collègue ou quelque chose que vous n'avez pas compris? Oui.
Yeah, because also there, it was a bit like the first case I just mentioned. Also, with the CV, you had a wide variety of approaches to describe your achievements and describe your CV. So by guiding people into following a certain structure, it actually helped also to bridge imbalances on assertiveness, let's put it this way, of the various candidates. Indeed, it's not just a gender issue, we also see it geographical differences across Europe, especially if we look at EU 13, so the East Europe, and the old member states of the European Union. Indeed, this also helped to close this gap and these imbalances. So that's a really good point. Then in 2000, yeah, sure. Yeah. So we have, let's say, an equity approach on this, which is women that carry the babies, they only need to show us that they had a baby. So upload the birth certificate and they get immediately the 18 months per child. For a male candidate, we actually ask them to demonstrate with a document that they took paternity leave. Yeah. It's just for women, you don't need, maybe you just took 4 months, but it will count 18 months provided you had a child. Because, you know, there's very big imbalances in Europe in how many months you can take in parental leave, but that would still impact your career and your performance. Then in 2015, we removed the limit for the extension. So when we introduced this extension of 18 months, we put a kind of a cap. You could only extend it by 4 to 4.5 years, meaning equivalent to 3 children. So what we decided that it didn't make any sense. So you should not be penalized if you had 4 children or 5 children or whatever. So we removed that cap to extend the eligibility window. And we also introduced another reason why you can extend this eligibility window, which is to take care of a sick relative. Of course, this applies to both men and women, but traditionally we know that it's more likely that the woman takes use of these leaves than men. And we ask in the template to focus on a specific number of publications within the track record. So for the most junior schemes, the starting grant and the consolidated, to focus on 5 publications, and for the advanced grant in 10 publications. This is because studies have shown that women tend to publish in numbers less, but actually the number of citations are comparative. So this is also to focus on to restrict the long list of publications that then in the panels people start comparing, and they get a bit confused how they assess all this. In 2016, we started to show a video on unconscious bias. It was not developed by the ERC. It was not developed by the ERC, it's developed by another European project, and is not focused on ERC evaluation, it's focused on bias in recruitment. And you can actually Google, it's something like bias in recruitment, or you can find it in our webpage. It's a 7 minutes video. It's really, really interesting. It reproduces an interview panel for a job position, and you have a man and you have a woman, and it gives you several examples on where unconscious bias can influence the decision. So I would really encourage you, or I can send it later, the link, and you can circulate it if you're interested. I know many of the panel members at the ERC, they're now using this video at their host institutions because they find it very pedagogic. In 2017, we decided to include in the work program a statement to encourage our grantees when they get a grant, stating that activities promoting equal opportunities and gender balance can be considered as eligible costs. And this was a very big success, and it's really, we hope that this will encourage our grantees to, again, to lead by example as leaders that we expect them to be. And in 2018, this is what's coming in the next couple of months, we will have a training in-house for unconscious bias for the program officers. So for me and my colleagues, in order to be able to tackle unconscious bias, so detect unconscious bias in our panels, but above all, to know how to react, so how to take an action when we see it, if we see it, how to deal with it.
Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions ou quelque chose qu'il n'a pas compris? Désolé. Alors, simplement, à partir de 2015, ma collègue ainsi que ses collègues, donc au sein de son équipe, ont décidé de simplement réduire ou supprimer la limite d'extension à laquelle on peut appliquer pour la bourse auquel elle prévoit le programme, en fait, tout simplement. Elle a décidé également de fixer le programme ou le nombre de publications à 5 auprès des plus pertinentes, on peut dire, pour les postes de premier plan au sein de laboratoire, et vraiment pour les postes les plus haut gradés à 10 publications. En 2016, ils ont décidé de faire vraiment une vidéo qui montre...
We just show it, it's not ours.
Ah, ils diffusent simplement une vidéo qui montre simplement l'étendue du panel, du programme auquel vous adhérez, tout simplement. Ça dénonce les stéréotypes de sexisme à la recherche. Oui, on dénonce vraiment effectivement les différents stéréotypes auxquels le chercheur, qu'il soit femme en particularité, fait face tous les jours au sein du laboratoire, au sein d'une équipe de chercheurs. À partir de là,
this one is a bit more difficult. So it's in our rules. We have included that when they get a grant, they can also claim costs to develop gender equality actions.
So you have an extension of...
No, it's just they can get money from their ERC grant. They can spend some of their money to do gender equality actions.
Donc simplement, une fois que la personne qui appliquait... Excusez-moi. Une fois que la personne en post-doctorat ou en poste a candidaté pour cette bourse, elle a la possibilité de demander des fonds auprès de l'équipe de ma collègue. Excusez-moi. pour investir directement dans les inégalités hommes-femmes au sein de Laboratoire.
I feel so sorry for you. It's not really easy. Okay. So now I'm going to just... Yeah, sorry. Well, for instance, to organize a workshop where you invite some role models to give a talk to your group. But this is for an ERC grantee, so that you can claim in your grant, the cost will be eligible. So we don't have special grants for these activities. It's okay. Now I'm just going to try to be a bit more quick than I had planned. These are just examples of conferences where I have organized some sessions. So there's one, the first one is actually not here. It was in the European School in Brussels. It was in 2013, and it is pretty challenging, and they really throw at you questions that you don't expect. And then the first serious one was in ESOF, the Euroscience Open Forum in 2014. This was in Copenhagen. Then we did it again in 2016 in Manchester. And there's already an approved session for this year in Toulouse in 2018. So if you have the possibility to be in Toulouse in July at ESOF, please drop by. Then I'm a true believer that we can do a lot of things on a general level and create a lot of policies, but it's very important to take actions on discipline-based events, because each scientific community may have different needs and different dynamics. So in 2016, I organized the first one at Goldschmidt. So Goldschmidt is like the satellite conference of the geochemistry community. And I have to say that Japan is a very curious place. I mean, you have this highly driven technological society that it's so much limited by traditions. It is just amazing. The combination of the two worlds is just striking. And then I also organized an unconscious bias training at Goldschmidt 2017. And then there is EGU at the end. So this was really the boom. This was really the very exciting thing. Because while the others are just, you organize sessions, you invite some people, you give some talks, and that's it. EGU started in 2016 as an open call for abstract session. So any of you that has organized an open call for abstract session knows the dangers and the risks you're taking when you organize a session like this, because you cannot predict what you're going to get, not in terms of numbers, not in terms of quality. And you know that to have an oral session allocated in such a demanded pressure events with so many people, you need to always to have an oversubscription and abstracts to be given an oral session. So, and in this topic, you don't want posters, generally speaking. You want people to also have a platform where they can meet. So we started in 2016, where we received 16 abstracts. Okay, quite a wide range of quality, but okay, we managed to get 2 oral sessions. In 2017, we received 21 abstracts. And then this year, we just found out 2 weeks ago, we got 23 abstracts. And it's not just the quantity, it's also the quality has just increased dramatically. And I have to say that this is a confession here. I was not planning to do it this year at EGU, just because I know how much work I have, all my other responsibilities, and how much it takes to actually put together such a session that it's a success. And I have to thank Nicolas Coltis, because he dropped me an email when I was just saying, I'm just going to do a short course on unconscious bias. And he dropped me an email saying, oh, but that's fine, but I hope you don't stop the other one. And okay, and then I start sending some emails to other people, and everybody, yeah, don't stop this session, we have to do it. So this just to tell you that networking is hugely important, and that's what stops you from giving up and from sinking down. And yeah, I think if we manage to be consistent, perseverant, and creative, we can change the world. And I say this because don't forget that actually it was never addressed. So the world is full of mini Wonder Women. Thank you.
Peut-être qu'on peut prendre quelques questions pour Claudia avant qu'on enchaîne. If you have some questions. Peut-être Ludovic. Y a-t-il des questions, des remarques, des interpellations, des suggestions? Oui.
I have a question about, is there a policy at the ERC for recruitment when people get grants and when they have to recruit PhD students, postdocs? Is there a policy addressing gender equality in the recruitment process?
Est-ce qu'il y a une politique d'égalité dans les processus de recrutement à l'ERC?
That's completely in the hands of the PI, so the principal investigator. Completely. And we know that recruiting is one of the most challenging things, especially for the starting grant. And the consolidated grant also, but especially the starting grant, where it's the first time you're doing it, you're building your own group. So it's one of the sources of delays in the project, especially the starting grant, is the recruitment. It's really difficult. So I don't think it would ever cross the mind of the ERC to make an imposition. What we can do is to raise the awareness to the PIs, to the principal investigators, to the research community, to try to have a balanced team and a balanced committees when you have to put up a committee or when you have to organize a session. You know, look at the gender balance in the panels that you organize. So this, I would prefer a more pedagogic approach than a stick, you know, the hitting to be really destructive and imposing rules. But maybe I'm naive.
Do you need traduction? Vous avez besoin d'une traduction? On enchaîne? Oui. Non mais on entend, c'est bien pour tout le monde parce que sans micro, la personne qui parle s'entend, mais dans le fond de l'amphi, c'est plus difficile. Merci.
Did you see any results of the action you've taken along these years? Like, do you have numbers about gender balance in the grantees since you started, like for example, in 2007, to take actions, as you said? Oh.
So this is the general for the ERC that I have here. So up is starting grant, so this is the junior scheme. Then is consolidator is the intermediate one, and then there is the advanced grant. So the black line is the submissions. The green line is success rate of male applicants, and the orange is success rate of female applicants. Yeah. What I want to say is, here you have all disciplines. Here you have put together, stacked together, the 25 panels. And what we've seen, and this is why I mentioned that each discipline and each community needs different actions, is because this is where we see the imbalances. If I disentangle this data and plot, for instance, the geosciences, you see that systematically starting grant, female applicants have a higher success rate than men. Now, I can also tell you that one of the domains that is pulling down the female success rate is life sciences. We don't know why. We are trying to understand for several years what is the dynamics in this domain that is pulling down women. I cannot believe that women in life sciences are less competent than men, and that they are less competent than the others in other domains. So we don't know. We've been told that it's the hierarchy. There is a very hierarchical, the labs, the structure of the labs, the way you do research, that there is all this hierarchy. We don't know. We cannot really find a logical and factual justification. So just to tell you, in the geoscience, there is hope. I don't say that it's really the result of the initiatives that I'm doing. I think that would be very, not very modest of me to say that, to even think that. But I don't think just about the ERC data. I think about the communities, the scientific community at large, because I also know the ERC is attached to an elite. The competition is really tough. So I cannot expect that I will change the dynamics in this elite. So yeah, I think there is an impact because we see it, that people are more and more talking about it. Now one of the issues that we are discussing is how many awards and medals are named after women? Yeah, how many? I don't know in the other communities in geosciences, there's very few.
Merci Claudia, thank you Claudia. On peut l'applaudir bien sûr.